Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm here with Usama. Welcome back to Bits. So on March 11th of this year, Stryker, one of the largest medical device companies in the world, had 200,000 devices wiped overnight across 79 countries. Laptops, servers, phones. With no malware or ransomware, the attackers actually used Stryker's own IT management tools to do it. They just logged in and pressed wipe on everything at once. So Usama, everything we're discussing today comes from public reporting. We have no direct involvement in the situation, but we do want to talk about it.
Hello, Sam. Hello, everyone. Definitely we do. I think there's lessons learned here. And in addition, I mean, this attack specifically was a state actor attack, which is usually sophisticated. However, these situations do happen in organizations and not even from hackers. They even happen from admin staff. And so we thought it was important to have this episode and discuss the details of it and maybe some lessons learned out of it.
So how did they get control of the admin tools?
It seems that they intercepted it, which is an adversary in the middle or man in the middle attack, intercepted a successful login from that admin with multi-factor authentication and stole the token. And with that, they were able to control the system.
What about geo-blocking and other controls to prevent that?
Well, you bring up a very good point, Sam. In cybersecurity, we talk about the Swiss cheese model. The first slice is protection. The second is detection. The third is recovery. And in the protection, one of them is the geo-blocking. So for instance, if the admin is in Chicago and the hacker logged in using his token or her token from Wisconsin, that would be an impossible travel. It would have been detected. Obviously, that wasn't in place here. The second item that you could have is geo-blocking, which is how do you actually block anybody coming in from outside the normal area that the admin logs in, or the third, just-in-time access. So these three protections obviously failed in this condition or weren't there.
So that's the first hole in the first Swiss cheese slice. What about the second piece, detection? Where did they go wrong there?
Well, we don't have all the details. However, I can tell you that even if you were to log in as an admin, you cannot issue the wipe immediately, quickly. You would have had to take your time and go through the process and steps in order to do it. It's not like there's a readily available button that you just press and it wipes everything out. So in here, the detection wasn't able to detect that this adversary was on the controls of the MDM solution that they have. And so the attacker was able to complete their work without being detected.
So what was the third piece that was like the nail in the coffin?
Well, so this one I think is a lesson for all of us. The recovery took them a long time. I think it took more than 2 weeks. Although they came back online, you couldn't order from them, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of other issues. However, what I think is the most important lesson here for this episode is the fact that in incident response training or incident response exercises, tabletop exercises, we don't go through this scenario really. And I was involved with a different scenario at a different organization in which an admin did do the same thing. They wiped out all the devices by mistake. And in that condition, they weren't ready. They weren't planning it. They weren't ready for it. And it took them weeks to recover. And I think it behooves all of us to start adding that as an exercise to consider, okay, well, what are the options? How do we deal with it? How do we manage that situation?
Can we talk a bit about just-in-time access? Because it's similar to what's used in the military, having two keys that need to be turned at the same time in order to complete a task.
So I would agree. I think the issue here for the admin to have the rights to wipe all these devices simultaneously sounds like a monumental responsibility and risk. And so I think for us, for all of us, we should start considering just-in-time access for admins, because how many times do you go in as an admin and wipe out all devices everywhere at the same time? So I think the two controls, the first control should be, that doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be even available for the admin. And the second, that the admin shouldn't be able to do it without someone else validating the work. And that's what just-in-time access is, similar to the two keys. you will not be able to do it just through your account. You need somebody else to validate and authenticate this action.
Got to have the checks and balances. So do you have any final takeaways for our listeners?
I think there are three. One is make sure that you put enough controls in place, like impossible travel, geo-blocking, just-in-time access. Two, improve your detection, because if it's true that they were living off the land, that's terrible. Because usually an attack like this, to be successful, they would have figured out some of the controls and the protections you have in place. And for recovery, definitely consider for your tabletop exercises and incident response exercises to consider, well, what happens if this condition occurs. The fourth one that just came to mind is the fact that I don't believe any admin should have the right to enable such an action. I think that action in itself probably should be chunked into different pieces, like maybe by region, as opposed to one button, press it, and everything goes to shit.
Well, thanks, Usama, and thanks to those watching. We'll see you next time on Bits.